I think it's always just so interesting because real estate in particular, you don't have to have a true background in it to be interested in it. Because at some point of our lives, we're all either purchasing homes or renting, we're all we're all involved with housing. So it's interesting, I think, from my perspective, to learn more about it and then see the different sides of it. Because I'm not sure if you would agree, but I would believe, there are a lot of misconceptions about the profession.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one, it's a highly regulated profession, right? You've got to get licensing through the state to have like the entry level of the real estate agent. And then I have a broker's license. So that's another level of education, another license and test that you do with the state to be able to even open a real estate brokerage, because agents themselves can't open their own brokerage. They have to work underneath a broker to get that extra license. You can open your brokerage. It's really a highly regulated industry. And because you're dealing so much with not only just, these are the biggest investments that people are usually making in their lives, right? I mean, it's really a hefty job. But on top of that, I mean, you're handling money and you're dealing with you're on some deals, you're out as a fiduciary, you're holding escrow funds. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. On the flip side, I mean, it's to take a transaction from point A, which is like if you're selling a house, meeting with the client and assessing like what's the listing price, all the way to point B where you're closing on the transaction. There's so much that happens in between there that's not always depicted on TV. I mean, it's inspections that go wrong. It's the appraisal that's way too low that, now you've got to try and rectify. It's the addendums, it's the negotiations. There's so much that happens in between there that is so interesting. That would just be, I think that would be actually a really fun show too, just to really see deals go from start to finish. You can't do that in like the show that we're on, Selling Tampa, because there's only so much time, right? And so, but it really is such a dynamic profession to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine, obviously, so much goes into, selling anything before, pen is put to paper. It's so much work involved, and you get to see a little bit of the steps, on the show. But obviously, there's tons more. So I'm curious then, for anyone sort of looking to, because earlier in the conversation, we talked about you sort of stepping into real estate and sort of leaving, your profession as an attorney, as a partner. What advice would you give, I guess, for anyone sort of looking to make that same move, maybe like, taking that leap of faith, jumping into new terrain?
The first thing I would advise is to, if you can, shadow an active real estate agent, because it really is important for you to see what happens day in and day out as an agent, from client relationships to, you're basically an independent you are an independent contractor. So you're running your own small business, even when you're a part of a brokerage. And so seeing what that's about, and then actually like going on showings, if you're a buyer's agent, what goes into when you have a listing appointment, like what if you need to hire a stager, and all of these aspects of it, to see if it's something that you really enjoy doing. And once you get past that, you've got to study and get your license and everything. But once you're licensed, the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is really, really, really take the time to educate yourself on the craft. Know all the contracts, talk to lenders so you understand the financing options for clients. Talk to a title company so you understand the process of the title work and the closing and how that happens. That is the most important thing you can do, because when you get comfortable with that, then you get comfortable advising clients. It is the hardest thing when you know you don't know what you need to know, and then you're trying to help someone else make one of the biggest decisions of their lives. And I think third, I would say, is to have some patience and grace with yourself. Very few people, from my experience, jump into real estate and have a built-in pipeline to where they're just selling properties like that to sustain themselves completely financially as an agent. I think there's a ramp up time that happens there, and you need to understand that and build that in for yourself. So you're going to spend at least a couple of months consistently working hard on building leads and talking to people and letting people know that you're a real estate agent now, because nobody, everybody's not going to know that, and how people can help you in making the connections. And slowly but surely you will see clients start to come in. And then as you get clients, you'll get more referrals from those clients that you've helped and done a good job for. And so if you jump into it and think, oh, I'm going to start selling houses immediately, you can be disappointed, because that may not be, and I think often is not, the path of the very successful real estate agents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you just brought up a lot of good points. I think, especially when it comes to selling, not just homes, but like literally anything, you have to know your product. You have to know the market. You can't sell something without knowing what it is that you're selling. That's a great point. And I think we saw that sort of in the show depicted in certain situations where, you have to be at the top of your game to know what it is that you're selling in order to make that deal. And then I think, with that said, also in making those deals, sort of having that knowledge and being confident in whether it be, your brand or business, knowing what it is you're selling, I think it makes you a more confident, realtor and a more confident worker. And with that, you're able to then, build those relationships. You talked about how important relationships are. So I think it's, a lot of things that you said is just, knowing your stuff. When you know your stuff, then you're confident in what you're doing. And then when you're confident in what you're doing, you'll start seeing those blessings, those rewards coming in.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times we get impatient and just want to jump in and get started, but it's so important to set that foundation. And I think it's hard if you just jump in and get going and, you're kind of trial by fire and learning on the way, to take a step back from that at that point and say, okay, now I've really got to lay this foundation because things aren't going the way I want to. If you take the time up front to lay the foundation, it just pays off dividends in the end.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And, we talked about the show. I'm so excited to see, hopefully a season 2, what comes of it, because I just think it's so interesting to learn about not just real estate in general, but the market in Tampa and what a growing, sort of flourishing market that is. That's really exciting to see. I'm curious then, what are you able to sort of update us on what is happening on your end? I know, not to spoil the show for those who haven't seen it, but there was talk of you, opening up your own brokerage. What are you able to share? Whatever you're comfortable with, I guess, fire away.
We are absolutely hoping for a season 2, and there's some things that I have to save, hoping that we do get this season 2. So I can't reveal a lot about that aspect of it. But I can say that having filmed season 1, I can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of us were very nervous. Do you know what I mean? With the not knowing the process and with the cameras there, and knowing that there's going to be, there's editing on the back end and things. So I think we were really nervous throughout kind of the filming and everything. And for a season 2, I think we really know what to expect going into it. And I think we'll be a little more relaxed in the process. And I learned, and this is kind of like one of the frivolous things that I learned in the filming, is that there are some times when I did my own makeup, and there are some times when I had a makeup artist do my makeup. And I can look at it and see a big difference when I did my own makeup and when she did my makeup. And so that's definitely something that I would take into season 2, is having somebody do my makeup. Or just having a better understanding of how the camera makes things look. And so I think you'll see I think season 2 is going to be really fun and really entertaining, because now we know what we're doing, right? Now we know how this works. And so, life has continued. Sherelle was pregnant at the end of season 1. She's had her baby now. I have my broker's license. There were just a lot of things that I think we'd love to continue the conversation on and showing in a season 2.